did you grow the brand? Was it referral? Was it just listening to your customers? What does marketing look like for Sprinto?
That's a great question. So, part of what we do in marketing is, I would say, simpler, if not easier, because this is such a common problem. If you are actually an entrepreneur who's doing business software, right? If you're an entrepreneur who sells business software, this is something that you naturally come across. So what happens as a result is a lot of our marketing is about being present where people look for information around this, rather than trying to shove something down people's throats. It's a lot simpler because this is a real problem. People look for solutions for this problem. So our job becomes a little easier. So as long as you are talking about the right things about how do you solve this problem, if you come across this is the way to deal with it, these are the steps you follow, and so on and so forth. That's kind of like what a lot of our marketing looks like. It actually looks like a lot of education. And so we do all the standard things that any software marketing business would do, which is make sure that you're present on Google, you get found when people are searching for these things. There are stores, SaaS, software as a service stores, where you are present, and so on and so forth. But that's a little later in the life cycle, though, right? Like the typical problem that any entrepreneur would probably face is, how do you get your first 10, your first 100 customers? Those are the toughest, and before any engine starts kicking in. I think we were a little lucky there as well, having been prior founders, and having the time between we exited Recruiter Box and we sort of started working on Sprinto. We had about a year and a half of a break, and we did spend that time speaking to a bunch of other fellow founders, trying to figure out, just trying to talk to them, learn from their experiences, share notes, etc. So one of the things that happened in the process is we were in touch with a bunch of other fellow founders, and we found quick ways of validating that, hey, this thing that we are thinking about, it's Sprinto, is actually has legs, and people have this as a real problem. So when it came to actually trying to acquire your first few customers, it was a relatively simpler. It was that people had this problem. We reached out to them saying that, hey, would you like us to help with this? And they were like, yes, please. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. Please help me out with this. And that was like a great way to get started. So the first beta customers were relatively simple that way. People were more than willing to get help from us and help us test out the software, whether it does what it's supposed to do, and so on and so forth. So that happened. Which, by the way, before that, before we actually even put the software out to people, we went through this whole process ourselves as a software company. So we actually went through, like, I think a dozen audits. We just used to go to these GDPR and SOC 2 and all of these folks and tell them that, hey, help us become compliant, and we would just make sure whatever they're asking us to do, we can translate that into software. So that was one of the things that we did. And so the first, I think the 10 customers are always the hardest, but we went about it slowly and steadily, after which our marketing engine sort of kicked in, and we could just tell people from referrals. The existing customers who were happy with us, they kept referring other fellow customers to us. So the journey from there on was relatively, I wouldn't say smoother, but easier for sure.